Hello, we're still in Brookwood Cemetery, and I want to introduce you to another gentleman by the name of Idries Shah. Now, Idries Shah on his father's side came from a line of noble Afghans, and his mother, she was a Scottish lady, and he was brought up in London. So he had a foot in both camps. His education took the form of travel. His father travelled all over the world, and he travelled with him. And he had a mind like a sponge, and he absorbed everything that came within his vision. During the war, he was evacuated from London and went to live in Oxford with his father, and his education continued there. Idries Shah wrote about 40 books, and they've been translated into dozens of languages. I came across his stories in the 80s in Dublin, and his stories were more Sufi stories, parables and teaching stories about Hodja Nasruddin and his adventures and misadventures. You know, a lot of humour was used in these parables. And then he had more serious works. His most famous book is The Sufis, which, to be honest, went over my head a little bit. It was written in a kind of a scattered manner, but Idries Shah did that deliberately. He felt that people were brainwashed and shaped by their culture, and he wanted to shake people out of that and not, be reshaped upon landing. I was dissuaded from reading his books by some people in the Islamic community because he divorced Sufism or spirituality from Islam itself. He maintained that spirituality, Sufism, predated Islam, and he's right in a sense. But I can see why my friends did dissuade me, because the way that I've come to see the Islamic faith now, it's one, but it's made up of two elements, if you like. There's the fruit, the spirit, which, if allowed to grow, will flourish, but it needs trestles, or the Sharia, if you like, to make sure that it doesn't grow wild. So the prayer, fasting, pilgrimage, without this framework, spirituality can go a little bit astray. But he influenced an awful lot of people. He was very, very successful. Now, strange enough, actually, I came across his son, who was also a writer, Tahir Shah, by accident. I'd read his books in the 80s, and, married life and jobs and work, I'd put him aside for a little while. But when my wife is from Morocco, and before going to Morocco for a holiday one time, I picked up a book called The Caliph's House. And when I was looking at it in the library, the introduction maintained that Tahir found himself in a Pakistani jail. He was a journalist, suspected of being a spy, and he found himself in jail. And he was listening to people being tortured and people screaming and so on. And the way that he calmed himself was by thinking about the house that he had built in Casablanca. And the rest of this story tells about this house. Thankfully, he was released from prison. Halfway through the book, I understand that actually the reason that he went to Morocco was because as a child, the war in Afghanistan was taking place, and his father couldn't take him there, so he ended up taking him to Morocco, and he grew to love the place. Tahir, like his father, he has gone around the world. He's collected stories from all corners of the world, all civilizations, whereas Idries concentrated on the Islamic world. Actually, Idries, God bless him, he was diagnosed with a serious illness and told that he had very little heart function left. But he went on to write more books and lived a further 9 years. Anyway, here he is interned here. May God have mercy on him, and may God have mercy on us.